Hey guys, it's Ant. Let's dive right back into it. This is part 2 of the Yulin I videos. I lived there for 6 months. It was such an amazing experience. I'm so thankful that I chose to go to that place because even though there were a million mosquitoes, it was super hot. There was really nothing in town for foreigners. There were only 7 of us in the entire town, so there wasn't a lot of English speakers in shops. Not a lot of Western amenities, things that we had hoped to find, but that was okay. I mean, it just meant making do. So yeah, as I mentioned last time, this was the number 3 bus. This was the one that went between the school and downtown. Currently, this is where you would get off the bus to go to your school. Now, there wasn't a bus stop per se. You would just tell the bus driver where you would going, and he would stop there across the street, and you would cross over and walk down a little roadway to the school. But yeah, it wasn't like there were bus stops anywhere along the route. It was just kind of where you were going. And on the route down to school, this is this was the neighborhood. This is what you'd see, where you'd see these very simple little apartment buildings that had these little basic planters outside. Nothing very fancy. I love this. Shops and places at the end of the night, like these little places, would just brush all their dirt out onto the street, sometimes substantial, a little mountain, and then in a couple hours it'd be gone. China literally hires armies of cleaners whose job it is to just walk around these neighborhoods, and every time they see a mess, they clean it up, and it's amazing. It works so well. I really liked this too. It just shows the disparity between different homeowners. You have this guy here, which is a different color tile from this guy here, so I suspect that these are 2 different owners. Got 2 different sets of doors, but they are nice wooden doors on the front, and they've got the decorative hangers for Chinese New Year, things like that. The traditional orange tree out front. Whereas this guy obviously ran out of money and was unable to finish his home, and so in order to cut his losses, he stopped work, boarded it all up, and just abandoned it. So this guy, he can't even move into this place and take over and clean it up and continue the construction. He would have to pay the full amount to the government in order to do that. So it's just not worth it. It's better to build yourself an entirely new one. And then you look over on this side and you see that it's the brickwork. So they finished the brickwork, but just never got to the tiling and said, you know what? Screw it. We've got the house built. The inside of the house is finished. It looks nice. Who cares what the outside looks like? So they just left it rough brick as opposed to doing the tile work. Kind of unique that it's like 3 different extremes, from the very kind of fancy-ish places with the nice wooden doors, the brick front, and then the one that was given up on. And you see that all along here. This was the when you got on the number 3, this is where it would take you down the street down towards downtown. And as you got closer to downtown, you'd see more little stands and shops. This is where Jack would go and make small talk with the owners and eat all their wares. So on his days when he wasn't working and wasn't getting food from the school, he'd just walk down here and eat for free. So there it is. There's the number 3 on its happy little route downtown. I'm thinking on this day I probably decided just to go walking. So one thing I have to say about China that I really appreciated is no matter how new I was, when I didn't speak a word of the language, I always felt comfortable. I always felt safe. I was 100% confident to go walking through these neighborhoods on my own, without anybody, and just discovering and learning without. And then I never got lost. Never ever have I gotten lost in any foreign countries, just wandering out into the night. This was across the street from the school. Again, a giant building, again with the bamboo scaffolding. They put this green netting up over top to kind of keep crap from flying out. And then, yeah, they have this very, very rickety, it's like an elevator for bringing up concrete and things. They just do not have pump trucks, at least at this time in this small town they didn't. It was very, very manual labor, but it was fast. They could knock these places out like nothing. Now that said, as I mentioned before, you see all of these, nice place, finished, sort of half finished, dead. And even though this is a perfectly good building, for example, a family could buy this, fix it up, All they'd have to do is tile it, do the interior work, but no. There's some strange regulation in China saying that you have to pay for this as if it were a brand new building before you can start fixing it. So people say, okay, screw it, I'll just build next to it. I'm not going to pay full price for this when I could build an actual brand new one. So these places end up sitting vacant forever. I don't know what happens to them. Maybe homeless people take them over. This is in the central, or at that time, now it's nowhere near the center, but this was the central square. It was next to the TV tower. It was a huge square in the middle of the city. Had fountains. They weren't active at the moment because it wasn't a festival. And, across the street, you've started to see shops and banks and advertisement, things like this. Mostly motorcycles in this city at that time. Crazy amounts of motorcycles. And here's me sitting in the square next to a fountain. Somebody's taking a picture for me. There's this giant KTV here. Looks like these a giant restaurant on the main floor. A bank here, the Agriculture Bank of China. This is the tallest building in the city, the TV tower. So I was out exploring. Love this here. I thought at first this was like a trike, the equivalent of their no power pickup trucks, but it's actually a bicycle with a sidecar. How cool is that? Who knows what they haul in it, but it must be cool. So you see there's this giant circular square. They love these in China, these giant squares for people just to go hang out. And you can go do anything you want. You can go attend or give dance lessons. You can go do clubs. You can go ride bicycles, skateboards, roller skates. In fact, this place here, you can see all these little stools. They'll rent you roller skates to tool around on, or you can rent a scooter if you're not comfortable on roller skates, and it would be like $1 an hour, super cheap. And then as you go further downtown, you start to get into the bigger businesses, and you can tell these are businesses primarily because you look here and it's like they tiled the facade up front of the building, and then screw it, just straight brick back here. Even though it's fully visible, everybody can see it. No, as long as the front's tiled, that's fine. Like I said, this is a fancier building, so this I'm guessing would be a hotel with all these advertisements sold around the sides here. There are apartments behind these signs here, but hey, they'll just keep building up as much as they can as long as they can get advertising money for it. Smaller town, there were not a lot of big LED and fluorescent style advertisements. I'm not sure what this building was. I never really paid much attention. I just really liked this kind of unique modern art because it's crazy that you'd have this nice looking building with this modern art fountain and other different pieces kicking around, and then right across the street you have this slow moving kind of sloughy river running through the town. Where people kind of hang out in as if it's a park, but there's no pathways or anything. It's just kind of beaten dirt. Kind of strange that, the difference between going across the street. I love this. This is one of the little taxis for getting around town. I've crammed myself into them a couple times in my journeys in that city. It was fun. I couldn't barter with the driver. One driver, he thought he'd play a trick on me, and instead of taking me directly to my school, he took me the very long, circuitous route around the town and then charged me $10. And I laughed and paid him happily because he'd literally driven me around for 2 hours. And then when we got to school, he charged me $10 when it should have cost me $2. And I was happy to pay it. I was just thrilled. It's like, you gave me in my mind, a free tour around town for the cost of a couple beers back home. Awesome. And this is another picture of the disparity that I really like. So this is very nicely done. Curtain, people living here, lanterns, got the fancy brickwork down here. Then the rest is all kind of painted and nice looking. You've got a balcony up top, right? Obviously, you've got some growing areas and things up top there. And then the exact duplicate behind it, the building right behind it, nothing. It looks like they didn't even finish this building. Even this connected piece here, never finished. This one never finished. And I say never finished because if it was still under construction, there would be bamboo scaffolding. That is the rule. There isn't. So here again is one of those parks where, you see the kind of modern art, the nice benches that they put in to make sure people have a place to rest and sit, little pathways everywhere. They have foot massage stone paths in these places. And then again, you see this a finished apartment here with the rounded windows, and then nothing. Just crazy. Just you see it everywhere. This is the radio and TV building, the biggest building in Yulin at that time. I've been in this. I've been up in here on this side. I was there for a radio interview. They were talking with teachers in the city. And then on this side, have gone up there many times to do audio recording, which is a little side gig that you can get when you're teaching sometimes. So one thing I liked doing was getting people to take pictures of me in front of the lions. So unique, so different. This is a lion. This is a very traditional looking Chinese lion. And this is a lion. I mean, kind of a big difference there, but very neat. I have lots of pictures of lions. Now, this is Jack, and this is Stacy. Stacy was the other teacher I worked with at the school, and Jack was our teacher liaison. He was a bad boy, so they made him act as our liaison because he could speak English very poorly, but he could speak it. He was also a dog. Anytime he'd go to these places, this was a pick-your-own guava place, and you can see in his hand here, he picks and eats until the owner comes over and gives him shit. The same thing happens when he goes shopping at the little street vendors for oranges and nuts. He'll sit there and consume fruit, sampling them until he's eaten 30 oranges, and the owner tells him to bugger off. Terrible. But he did it all the time. The mouth, you can see it's always open because he's always consuming. He's got a half-eaten one in this hand, I'm sure. Now, the highlight of this trip was after the guava farm. We walked out into the field, and Jack asked this farmer if we could take pictures of his water buffalo. So for some reason, Stacy decided to show her crotch to either the water buffalo or the farmer, or perhaps both, because you can see he's looking at it. We don't know why she did this, but I can guarantee you that my friend Mary is peeing her pants right now. Mary, you know it's true. And look, he's still eating guavas. He hasn't paid for anything yet. Right, so that's about as close as Stacy would get. So she decided to come on the other side of the farmer, and then Jack took a picture of us with the water buffalo. And as I was mentioning, sometimes we would get side gigs where they'd come pick us up in a car and take us to a studio somewhere, sometimes in a different city. Sometimes they'd send us to Beilu, which has now been incorporated by Yulin and is part of Yulin. But back in the day, it was a different city. And we'd sit there and we'd record messages for telephone answering machines, elevators. You have reached floor 32, 37, 24, etc. Right? We were on answering machines. We were in escalators, in airports, all over the world. I have no idea where our voices ended up. This is one of our favorite restaurants in town. Not a fancy place by any means. Plain Jane wooden chairs and tables. But the reason that we went there a lot was because there were foods that were somewhat recognizable. This was one of the teachers we went with. She was a hoot. This was the best dish here. This was caramelized apples that you had to eat quickly while they were hot. Otherwise, they would stick together and become like hard rock candy. And then there was sweet and sour pork. The only two Chinese dishes that Stacy would ever eat. Otherwise, every meal she ate was at KFC, and she drank Coca-Cola and Dove chocolate bars. That's it. This, now I know what everything is. This is pork with onions on a screaming hot sauté dish. This is spanked cucumbers, where they break up cucumbers and mix it with an oil, sesame oil, vinegar, and soy sauce mix. This is ground pork on Japanese tofu, and then there's a few other dishes as well. Kongqing cai, which is a hollow green vegetable, one of my favorites. And so, yeah, that's it right here. And potatoes, French fries. They weren't called French fries. They would just cut them like French fries and then fry them with hot peppers. Freaking delicious, though. So yeah, this is the end of the night. We're sitting outside of the restaurant. This little kid came over and joined us at our table for no reason at all other than to eat our food, and we didn't care. She was cute. And this I'm going to end off on. This is my favorite picture I found in Yulin. I love this. This is just an engine on a frame, and there's no steering. There's no real suspension. This is just a frame with 2 handlebars coming off it and a motor. And this is a farmer's pickup truck. I love this. It makes me think of China. It's one of the coolest things ever. And that's it. We're going to leave off for Yulin right now. And I'm going to come back with a couple more videos. One about Nanning and one about Beihai.